Hey, hi everyone. My name is Brandy Bell, and I would like to welcome you to another webinar hosted by Premier's Data Alliance Collaborative. Our topic is Self-Service BI, and I have posted the presentation to our community in Premier Connect. Also, immediately following the webinar, you will be prompted to answer a few quick questions about your experience. We truly appreciate your feedback and thank you in advance. Today's speaker is Rush Shah, Senior Solution Architect. Rush has been with Premier for 3 years and has been working in the BI space for over 13 years across multiple industries. He has specialized experience in Oracle, SQL Server Analysis Services, MicroStrategy, Netezza, and Cognos. Also, Rush is an avid reader of just about everything, and he is always open to suggestions for new reads. I will go ahead and hand over the presentation to Rush.
Hey, thanks, Brandy, for the introduction. And I'm just going to briefly introduce the agenda for the next 45 odd minutes that we have. I'm going to race through some of the slides. We have about 13 slides that have some material in it. We are going to try and introduce you to first review the traditional business intelligence ecosystem that we have had over the last 15-20 years. We're going to try and understand what is self-service business intelligence doing differently from what was being done before. And we are going to try and align, if possible, if that is possible, the self-service BI with the traditional BI world. I hope that there will be time for us to demo Tableau, but if there is not, then we will make sure that we have another session where we can do a longer session on Tableau, which is the preferred self-service BI tool for Premier Connect Enterprise. By no means am I going to try and prejudice you to use Tableau, so don't worry about that if there is any vendor on the call. So this next slide that I have prepared was just about the traditional information management architecture that is out there and has been serving almost all organizations very well for quite some time. And if you look at this diagram, you can see that the traditional unit of BI delivery has been what you were seeing at the top, the dashboards, the parameterized reports, the Excel data dumps, the briefing books, the OLAP cubes, et cetera, Almost all of these things have predetermined drilling capabilities. They have limited interactivity in the traditional BI world. This unit of BI delivery itself is the end product of a unified information management system that relies on a business semantic layer, if you will, that is developed through the process of enterprise data warehouse. This model has been delivering trusted information to knowledge workers for, as I said, decades probably. But building this kind of a unified system is a painstaking and a long-term project. You need strict adherence to data governance and data stewardship processes. You need to build stakeholder consensus and gather requirements incrementally, define a single version of truth, if you will, metadata modeling, defining business glossary, implementing the EDW through complex integration projects or ETL projects, if you will. You have all these different systems in healthcare, operating data stores or operational data stores which feed into this EDW, which then enables a business intelligence department to deliver content to the rest of the organization. Now there is I think I've not heard many people who object to this process, first of all, right? I mean, I think everybody sees value in a kind of consensus-based, incremental, process-driven approach that an enterprise data warehouse brings. This approach enables everybody to know the rules of the game. You know what is trusted data because it comes from enterprise data warehouse. You know who to contact, right? Everybody knows the value of linking all these data lakes or data reservoirs that are out there. And all roads, it seems, lead to a centralized information management system. And it is this stupendous reliance on IT in some sense that you will see that has generated unreal expectations, incredible burden on IT, and unreasonable concentration of power for IT. So, a lot of business users and end users constantly complain about the fact that, IT never has time to deliver value for some of these things. we've now are pretty, I think, across the board accustomed to hearing this gripes, right? And the length of time that EDW takes to develop, right? So traditional BI, no wonder, sees a low adoption and penetration in almost all organizations. You see all kinds of shadow worlds of Excel and Access databases that are out there, and it's a nightmare for IT, right? Because they're non-secure, there's no performance tuning, there are no backups, so you really are dealing with this whole shadow world, this sort of, from an IT perspective, an illegitimate world that exists out there that's not been covered yet, right? It is this constantly changing business environment and requirements that the process-driven IT world is not being able to deliver to, in some sense. The resources and budgets are overstretched, and the ability to be responsive and agile is gone. So increasing number of business departments at the same time are becoming analytics-driven and tech-savvy. So one of the things that I always see in all these finance departments and people who are doing planning and forecasting and marketing, people who are doing analytics there, they're extremely smart, they're extremely savvy. They build complex Excel models that will put even an IT guy to shame. So when you have this kind of power users in the organization and you have such a slow process-driven approach, there is bound to be disappointment, right? I mean, they're bound to see their reliance on IT as a bottleneck. What they are looking for are differing set of capabilities than are offered by BI or traditional BI as we know it. They want interactive and smart visualizations. There is a new world of Google-style search-based data discovery, advanced analytics that integrate easily with R and SAS and SPSS, all those advanced analytics statistical tools. And these are not just abstract concepts or cool buzzwords. You know, I think 3-4 years ago they sounded like cool buzzwords, but they now seem to embody real needs and possibilities. And they have transformative implications for any organization. They're supremely innovative. Power users want these core functionalities as their tools. And Tableau and ClickView, by offering their tools free, have really attracted this audience even more. On the other hand, the dissatisfaction you see with IT is also driven by, you know, not just by power users, but also by casual users who find this traditional BI system really complex and hard to understand. They have a need to read, consume, and integrate data. They are really data shoppers in so many ways. You know, they want to see what's on the shelf on a BI system, and they want to pluck it, and they want to integrate it into their PowerPoint presentations or what have you. And they find this traditional BI systems too unwieldy and cumbersome. So what they do is they rely on their Excel worlds. They may not be power users, but even for their simple pivot tables, they don't go to use OLAP in-memory-based tools. Instead, what they do is they go to Excel, and you would be befuddled by the fact that something that can be done with in-memory OLAP-based cubes so easily, which is what BI departments have been targeting for the last 15 years, people in the organization have still not picked up that tool. They have still not adopted it. And you don't understand it. You can blame the end user, or you can try to figure out what went wrong with this entire scenario. And there's also, I think, one more thing apart from this advanced analytics and dissatisfaction with BI capabilities that is coming from two different types of user persona. And that is the specter that is haunting IT departments all over the world right now, right? I mean, it's the specter of big data. If IT departments rely on their traditional methods of developing semantic layers through data warehousing, it can take them years, if not decades, to get a control of all the data that's out there and to get meaning and value out of it, right? I mean, IT departments love to know how a user is going to basically use data, and how is an innovative environment supposed to predict how data usage is going to happen, right? So there is that chicken and the egg, that paradoxical problem. You modelers, metadata modelers always want to know, but how are you going to use it? Define the use case for me. And the power user will come back, well, I don't know, I have a vague idea, but give me a tool which will allow me to figure that out, right? So if even 1/10 of the organizational data that is available through this unified knowledge systems is made available, then we would have a good result. But not even that, according to some estimates, is available out there through data warehousing. A lot of knowledge producers, on the other hand, want unfettered access to data with unconstrained drilling capabilities. And all of this with the capability to blend the data. One of the big things that has emerged over the last few years is this ability that Tableau and ClickView and DataMirror and all this other new data discovery products that are coming up provide is you can blend data. They call it a concept of data mashup. Well, you are taking your organizational data and then you are blending it with the public domain data like geographic data, psychographic data, demographic data. All of that is being blended into the organizational data. So on the one side, you have a lot of data that is not incorporated into data warehouse, a lot of unstructured big data, and on the other side, you see this overwhelming desire of the power users to control their own quantitative destiny, if you will, right? And what you have at the end is a lot of disappointment with traditional IT. So before we go into what is self-service business intelligence, I just made an attempt to kind of take all the drivers of business intelligence as enumerated by Gartner Magic Quadrant, which is, a reliable tool for almost all BI organizations. They go to this Magic Quadrant to figure out what's going on with the world. What are the features available in different business intelligence system products out there? And as soon as you see these key drivers of business intelligence, you will realize very quickly that the drivers that are in the delivery bucket, all the secondary drivers, dashboards and reports, ad hoc query, right, and mobile business intelligence, a lot of offline kind of BI development, Office integration, that's Microsoft Office integration. All of this has become a staple of the traditional BI tools or products out there. ClickView, MicroStrategy, Cognos, and I think also Business Objects, they all are very good at doing business intelligence delivery, as described by Gartner. But they are not necessarily, where they are not necessarily good is in the analytics portion. So if we go to the next slide, we can see through the intensity of the color what they are good at and what they are not good at. And as soon as you come to interactive visualizations, that's advanced analytics, that's where they become weaker. Now, a lot of people try to struggle to understand, what do you mean by visualization? I mean, is it just pie charts and bar charts and line charts, heat maps, all of these things are available in MicroStrategy or Business Objects with Sapphire release, right? So what's the big deal about interactive visualization? Well, there are a couple of ideas that have not yet been incorporated in some of these tools, and that's the idea of representing data properties in a visual way. Right? So traditionally, we understand the properties of a data as how is the data going to be used? Is it going to be used as an identifier? Is it going to be used as a numeric expression, as a string of expressions? So depending on that, BI products will either aggregate the data, they will either use it for indexing purposes, etc. Then there is aggregation type. Then there is formatting, right? How are you going to display the data? How are you going to add up the data? Are you going to, or aggregate the data? Are you going to average it? Are you going to sum it? But there are no properties in the traditional BI ecosystem for visual properties of data, right? If you have a column, what is its visual property? And this is a different way of thinking that smart visualizations inaugurate, right? If you have a column, what is its shape? What is its color, right? These are just defaults, by the way. Of course, you can change those properties when you're using them in your ad hoc tools, like Tableau and ClickView. But how do you represent these properties is where the self-service data discovery tools come into play. And I think I may not have mentioned this a while back, but self-service BI is data discovery is a shorthand for self-service BI. So we'll use the term interchangeably, if you will. So it is this idea of visual properties of data that comes into play when you think about interactive visualizations or smart visualizations or visualization-driven data discovery. Now, what is the difference between smart visualization and search-based data discovery, right? So I think the simplest way to understand search-based data discovery is to kind of think about Amazon, right? I find Amazon the easiest way because I myself have not worked on search-based data discovery products, so it's sort of hard to give you a precise idea, but Amazon is the best way to think about it because it allows unfettered and unconstrained drilling opportunity to get to the same product. So from a retail shopping experience perspective, if you go to Amazon, you can get to a product through several different hierarchies. So what this search-based data discovery products do is they basically have a proprietary system of developing almost n number of hierarchies through which user can go ahead and drill data. So the constraints that came into play with OLAP deployed in memory are removed with search-based data discovery. It's basically the Google paradigm of discovering what you want, and they're not just like Google giving you a rough estimate. They're very precise in their aggregation mechanisms and their summaries, and you don't have to build aggregates and summaries beforehand. It all happens during the process of data discovery, right? So it's all happening on the fly when you are searching for that data. And usually that search is text-based, right? Then you have geospatial intelligence, which is now very popular. You all know Google Maps, you all know ESRI, and a lot of these products have incorporated or integrated themselves with ESRI, especially ClickView and Tableau are very close to ESRI style geospatial intelligence. They are not exactly built for geospatial intelligence, but they give you enhanced capabilities to do that. And the fourth thing that you're seeing, which traditional systems have caught up to, especially Cognos, which is very good at embedded analytics because it is integrated with SPSS, is the integration mechanism or the integration that you have with statistical tools. So, a lot of these tools in the way need to access statistical tools now, and traditional BI systems are not very good at those things. They did not allow you data sources to R or SAS, whereas Tableau goes out of its way to make sure that you can access these systems. OLAP in-memory solutions has been the traditional fare of BI over the last 10 years. Increasingly, BI departments across the country have sort of relied on delivering ad hoc capabilities to users through either relational OLAP or through MOLAP. So, you have this idea of querying even the relational databases through OLAP, and that's put in memory. Now we go down to something that traditional business intelligence is really strong at, and that is security and administration. These systems have evolved over 20 or 30 years. They integrate very well with products, with all kinds of security products out there. They integrate very well with all kinds of storage mechanisms and storage architectures. And they're easier to administer because they integrate very well. A word of caution about this is precisely where self-service BI is not very good at. Metadata management is another sphere where traditional business intelligence is extremely mature and evolved. Whenever I use Tableau, it reminds me of what I like about MicroStrategy and Cognos. Metadata management is so much easier there than it is with Tableau. So definitely some of these things, the intensity of what's good in some tools and what's not good in other tools has to be properly understood. What's very good with self-service BI and not very good with traditional BI is data mashups, right? and automated modeling. Now, this is probably one of the best features that Tableau and ClickView and other tools like Spotfire offer, is that you can do ETL within your BI tool in some sense. You can get this disparate data sources and kind of mash them up together with an in-memory kind of solution, so it's high performing. You don't need ETL projects and IT to intervene at all to bridge the gap here, right, for you. And you can do it all on your own. You can mash up all this data on your own. So from an integration standpoint, that is one of the more, for traditional IT, it's challenging that this kind of stuff can happen. And for power users, this is a very exciting feature that's come into being. Now, it has security implications, so you have to be very careful about especially in healthcare, about who can access what data. So then there are development tools, and these development tools relate to how you can enhance your BI tools by integrating them with software development kits, Java development kits, visualization paradigms that are out there in Java, whether you can put them in there or not. And traditional BI is typically very good at this. And the reason it is very good at this is because it's become more and more open to integrate itself with other type of infrastructure. The problem with, or other type of softwares, the problem with self-service BI or data discovery is that they are very proprietary systems. They come from a Apple-style world where designers rule and where everything is proprietary. So they are only now beginning to open themselves up to this kind of different opportunities of integrating with other software development kits based on Java. And then you have collaboration and social platform. Most of the traditional BI tools, have incorporated abilities to annotate and make comments, etc., but they live within that BI tool. They don't allow themselves to be embedded or integrated into another collaboration tool, another social collaboration tool. So that's where self-service BI is much better. And support for non-relational databases, it's amazing how good data discovery products are in supporting non-relational databases. And this is something that traditional BI is playing catch up to. I think MicroStrategy probably has done the best job in this area. Cognos is fast trying to catch up to, big data sources and Amazon Redshift and CRM tools like Salesforce. All of this was already there in Tableau 3 years ago. So you can imagine that when they talk about information wants to be free, their slogan, they really mean it. They really started providing that kind of support right from the beginning. So that's a little bit about the key strengths of the traditional BI system. Now I'm going to go to the BI ecosystem in terms of user persona and asset type relationship. I think I already alluded to this a little bit in terms of what's going on in the BI ecosystem and what's going on in its apparent conflict with the new paradigm of data discovery. So what you see here is the traditional way of looking at what kind of users there are out there and what are we doing to enable them. You have content consumers on one side, right? And you have content authors on the other side. And then you have a whole paradigm of objects that are out there with which we deliver BI. And the key thing that to remember here is that the low adoption and penetration of BI is because of this split that has happened and because BI has not been able to bridge this gap. Now, traditional BI system, as we already talked about, is not without its advantages, but it does little to address power users, content authors, right, in different departments. These power analysts refuse to come out of their Excel refugee camps in some ways, right? They're living there, and it is important to address the reason why power users are afraid of or tired of using the traditional fare. Why do they find it unusable? When you look at the picture, BI thought leaders will intuitively, gravitate towards this ad hoc query OLAP world to satisfy knowledge producers and content authors who've traditionally worked in what we in IT see as the rogue Excel world. Ad hoc query tools working on in-memory OLAP solutions provide performance. They allow horizontal across the different dimension drilling, vertical drilling, navigating hierarchies within the same dimension. They offer slicing and dicing capabilities. Voila, isn't this enough, right? This argument, however, does not stand up to the shadow world of Excel and Access databases and what's going on in that shadow world. It does not acknowledge the fact that knowledge producers, in some sense, want to take charge of their own destiny, and they want unfettered data access and data drilling experiences. They do not want IT to do it for them. That's one of the first reasons IT needs to put in their own head, right? To them, the difference between parameterized reports and ad hoc query tools is really ad hoc query tools based on OLAP is really an alternative between the same thing. It's a choice between Burger King and McDonald's for them, right? I mean, you're not really offering much choice. This is the area and the type of user that self-service business intelligence is appealing to, right? Tools like Tableau and ClickView and DataMeer put data discovery capabilities in the hands of these users. And that, again, I want to emphasize that, a lot of people think that, we hear this all the time, we are going to empower 1,500 people in our organization with Tableau, ClickView. It's not going to happen. You're going to only end up confusing that, and that's what we're going to take a look at in our next slide. So, the key drivers, I think we talked a little bit about that, so I'm going to quickly escape this slide. This was an additional slide that we had for discussing what self-service BI's key drivers are. And I think we've talked about it when we were going through the Gartner Magic Quadrant. So this is something similar to that, except that self-service business intelligence conceives itself in a different way. It thinks the problem in a different way. Data discovery likes to think of problem in terms of accessibility, usability, and consumability, right? So it's trying to make sure that everybody has access on any device they want, that there is limited IT intermediation. And then from a use perspective, they want to make sure that rapid prototyping is possible. And rapid prototyping is only possible when you can have smart visualizations. And smart visualizations should add up to something of a story format, right? You want to be able to tell a story about your business. And that's only possible through smart visualizations. You want data blending capabilities because that's the key. The shadow world of Excel partly exists because of data blending, because you have all this different demographic, psychographic, geographic data that's not in your EDW. So you want to take that from the public domain and kind of want to mash it up with your organizational data. And then they want easy administration. They want search-based data discovery, which is a completely new paradigm, and we'll talk about that. What is going on with the search-based data discovery and in-memory performance, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just going to go up to the next slide. Are we stuck? There you go. So now we're going to take a look at the key players in this arena in self-service business intelligence area or data discovery area. And, all of us would want to believe that one single data discovery product is going to give us all the answers. And all the new things that are emerging out there in the industry, they would be available through this one single product. But that is not the case. Visualization-driven data discovery is very different in some sense from search-driven data discovery. Now, a lot of these search-driven data discovery products are enabling smart visualizations, mind you, but their primary focus is on text-based searching, or what they call faceted search, where you can navigate data in any way you want. I think the story about visualization-driven data discovery is pretty well known to almost everyone in our audience, or at least everybody knows what kind of hoopla ClickView and Tableau created last year when their initial public offerings came out. They are darlings of Wall Street, and they have also become darlings of healthcare industry. So, and they're all about the narrative visualization story, the high-performing narrative visualization and data blending story. Search-driven data discovery, you will see in this market two or three big players that are emerging. HP's Autonomy and Oracle's Endeca are the big players, and they both have proprietary data structures to store and model data, as we were talking about earlier. They have built-in performance layers, which use basically a very big RAM. It's something very similar to what ClickView seems to be doing. And they have very intuitive interface for users to explore data, which again, the text-based searches that they're doing. Then you have niche players in data discovery, right? These are just completely niche players, but they're very highly, they're attracting a lot of attention and highly ranked. You have Roam BI, which basically 4 years ago broke ground with iPad and iPhones to allow users to do mobile BI on iPads and iPhones. So Roam BI has always been a pure mobile play, and it's been very Apple-centric. Only last year it became Android-enabled, if you will, in some sense. And then you have DataMeer, which is generating a lot of excitement in the industry. It's a pure big data play, but what is incredible about DataMeer, which none of these other products have, is the ability to create interactive infographics. If you know a little bit about marketing, you know this is the biggest revolution in marketing. This is how marketers now like to do marketing. They do data-driven marketing through infographics. And DataMeer will also allow you to do this kind of data transformations on the fly. So again, a big data play. Platfora is a big data play too. And Splunk has become extremely popular in IT departments. It's not gone really out of IT, but it's extremely popular to perform analytics in large generated data. But not many people understand that Splunk now works with almost all different kinds of data sources, and especially big data. So Splunk has become very exciting, and it has some of the features of R and SAS already integrated into Splunk. So all these data models or the statistical models are already in Splunk. So we have over 5 years of experience, let's say, for self-service BI, and it's become extremely hot. Almost, I think 60 or 70% of organizations, according to Gartner, are either implementing or are planning to implement self-service BI. Almost 30% of organizations in the country already have a self-service BI program. And so I was kind of trying to search what kind of satisfaction is there out there. And I found this wonderful article by Wayne Eckerson about this, where we talked about survey respondents.
I'm sorry, can everyone make sure you have your lines muted, please? Thank you.
And when you look at this, you find that that the satisfaction rate of self-service BI is not that hot, right? It's out there, and people who love it are the vociferous ones. They are they're Wall Street analysts who use Tableau all the time to do all their reporting, and so they are loud. So you hear a lot about it. But there is also this undercurrent of self-service BI not achieving the promise it set out to deliver, right? So why do we see this kind of disappointment or dissatisfaction with the implementation of self-service BI, right? So we created this sort of slide from our personal experiences and what we are hearing from different research papers in the market about self-service BI. I wanted to just give you guys some perspective of the risks in self-service BI. I think I alluded to the fact that you are not going to have 1,500 people use Tableau or ClickView, just not in the sense of developing content or authoring content. You may have them use it for the purpose of, how should I put it? You may have them use it for the purpose of accessing what you have developed, the stories that you have developed through your visualizations, but you are not going to have 1,500 content authors. Because even when you have 15 content authors, what's happening is a tremendous chaos ensues, right? So without crafting this proper strategy before the rollout of data discovery product, you will find it hard to reach your adoption goals. Making self-service BI pervasive requires alignment of the 3 Ps that we are talking about: platform, process, and people. There can be uncontrolled proliferation of dashboards and reports. Mind you, I mean, this is going to happen even if you have 15 content authors, because everybody thinks they are entitled to create a visualization that everybody else will use. This can unnecessarily hurt the knowledge consumer, right? Just who has traditionally relied on reports developed by BI departments as an output of the unified data management policy. Knowledge consumers need to have, know, and trust the data they need, right? And proliferation of assets can only harm their interests. It can only cause confusion and chaos. Everyone does not need a data discovery tool. It is important to identify your knowledge producers from your knowledge consumers. Without coordination and proper security policy for different user types, you will also run into problems. So one of the big challenges that we found with Tableau is that it doesn't bind to LDAP or Active Directory. Now, this is a nightmare. I don't know how it works for other SSBI products. I'm actively researching it. But if you are not binding to anything, then you have to import your users from your identity management systems into the tool, and then you have to administer them. Now, a lot of these things can be automated by a whole lot of programming, but the point remains that syncing this up requires a lot of effort. So it doesn't, I talked about the fact that it's not necessarily as strong as integration, like traditional BI, and that's the point, that there are some security challenges that we have with these data discovery tools. DataMere, for example, is a pure big data play, as I said. All the big data plays. Let's remember, big data with Cloudera's Hadoop is still not Kerberized, right? So it's still, if you were to enable multi-tenancy on it, you would be in total trouble. Like PCE works on multi-tenancy, and precisely the reason in PCE we are thinking of postponing big data implementation is the fact that you're not being able to Kerberize this environment. You're not able to separate it for each tenant. So a lot of concerns in terms of security. I think it achieves in the end the things that you will need, but you will have to work at it. Not only that, as I said, metadata management is another sphere where this self-service BI tools are extremely painful. When I work with MicroStrategy and Cognos, it doesn't take me 2 hours to develop my metadata content. I was just playing around with Tableau recently, and it took me like 3-4 hours to take my entire data warehouse and render it, probably more, and not to my satisfaction. So it's not this kind of enterprise-grade product, right? It has a specific use. It satisfies the knowledge producer, the power user who really has already denormalized the data set they have in Excel or in their SQL, and they use their custom SQL to quickly pull the data into Tableau and do whatever they want. They are also a risk of dashboard silos, right? So you can have, as I said, proliferation of assets. It's just another way of saying that a lot of people will create the same product, and then what you will have is dashboard silos, or you will have competing claims on who is doing the right thing. So you'll have conflicts because of SSBI. It's a possibility. I mean, it's not necessary. If you have good governance, if you had good stewardship, these things can be avoided. And that's why it's important to realize some things as your best practices with data discovery, right? The work of IT department does not end when they install self-service business intelligence tools, right? Data discovery products, once installed, you just don't disappear from them, right? The need for governance and collaboration increases with data discovery products, does not decrease. I know it's cliche to say noble is oblige. With power comes the need for stewardship, right? But self-service programs are if they are equipping power users, it is important to also educate them about their responsibilities with this environment. Protecting the BI environment from redundant data sources is one of the biggest risks, because data sources are not in data discovery products generated centrally. People, because they want free access to data, can create their own data sources and then keep on publishing it. So what you can have in your administrative tool is like 200, 300, 400 data sources, and almost all of them are duplicates. And you'd be like, why did we end up creating this kind of proliferation of stuff? So you need, stewardship does not end. There's a new kind of stewardship that now you will need, and that can only be addressed through BI competency centers. You need to, if you are going to create data discovery atmosphere in your organization, the challenge is also to create a proper governance structure. IT must still manage and monitor these environments. You just don't disappear from them because you equip the users. You need to teach them how to use templates in data discovery products, how to use parameterized dashboards, how to reuse and link their dashboards. All of these things become extremely important. Recognize and disseminate the conceptual difference between the prototype and BI certified content. So a lot of people will do rapid prototyping on this environment, but that doesn't mean it's certified by a BI department or the BI EDW department, right? So you have to educate them about this conceptual difference. People in some organizations not knowing might access data without understanding whether it can be trusted or not. So you have to foster a culture of collaboration by recognizing that content authors who innovate, collaborators and subject matters who share their process and workflow expertise needs to be brought in for content authors. So there has to be, subject matter experts are not necessarily always the knowledge producers in any organization. They are two analysts, data analysts in marketing or finance. They're not necessarily the closest to the data. Those subject matter experts are different, and you have to make them engage with each other. That necessity does not disappear when you are thinking about self-service BI. And you don't want to overburden your knowledge consumers, as I always say, with too much assets, with too much stuff that they don't care about. So be very careful with these environments on what you're doing. And a strong training program, a strong governance is extremely important. It doesn't disappear. A lot of people think, they will know how to use Tableau or how to use ClickView. It's not the case. It doesn't bear out. You have to they know it in their own way, but they really don't, because they don't understand the need for the stewardship. This next slide is basically just recognizing that there are 4 different types of users of any BI ecosystem, right? And they do different tasks. I think in some ways I've alluded to it already. But you have your traditional engineer, or what they now call architect or whatever, who's building the system, who's integrating the system with the other infrastructure in IT, who's managing the system in some sense, even monitoring it. That role still is important and continues, right? And then you have authors, knowledge producers, as we've been calling them, or information producers. They want free unfettered access to data. They want to iteratively analyze their data, and based on that, create assets that they can share with others. And they want to be able to publish them without any problems. So one other new paradigm that you will see in self-service BI is there is no such thing as migration. Now, this might scare IT a lot. Was it tested? How did you migrate that from dev environment to QA environment? Well, rapid prototyping means you have to give the power users the ability to publish data in a shareable environment, which is to say on the portal, on Tableau portal, or ClickView portal, or Spotfire portal. So you need to be able to do this, and therefore the ability to govern access and the ability to publish are now moving towards the power users. the content authors. And then you have the role of collaborators and subject matter experts who don't necessarily enjoy or like doing a lot of data analytics, right? But they do understand processes of the business, and they do know where value is in data. So collaboration with them is extremely important. And then you have consumers and decision makers who are consumers. You want to give them the ability to reuse your stuff, to discover from it insights. So you need to deploy this kind of rapid prototypes for them. Right? So that is a little bit about the user persona and their tasks. And I think we have about 2-3 minutes left. So we're going to talk about recommendations for organizational change. And this is something that I've been in healthcare for 3 years, and one thing that I find is monolithic departments. It's not the case in finance at all. I used to sit with capital markets. By no means I was a capital markets analyst, but for 6 years I sat with capital markets. Cross-functional teams is extremely important if you're going to make self-service BI a success. And I know a lot of people fear this, a lot of people think this is not going to work, but this is extremely important for training people. So, either cross-functional teams or you have this embedded business intelligence, which is the model that I came from, where I used to sit with finance or capital markets in my last 2 jobs. And then I come into this monolithic IT and wonder what's going on here. I mean, why do we have this kind of an atmosphere? And one of the things that will help you a lot in driving the change that you want is by embedding your business intelligence experts into particular departments like finance and marketing and HR, because they can drive adoption. Remember, one of the biggest challenges of traditional BI has been driving adoption. Tools like MicroStrategy and Cognos and Business Objects are not bad. They're phenomenal tools. But nobody has been driving or training users to use them. Now, they do lack certain features that the data discovery products lack, but they're trying to play catch up. They're trying to do a lot to come to this new paradigm, and I can bet on it that in the next 2 years they'll be there, but by that time there'll be another kind of evolution of this data discovery paradigm that we are seeing in the market. But in any case, I think it's important to realize that this kind of organizational changes are important and that you have to drive them. BI Competency Center is just another name for data governance from my standpoint. So you can call it anything you want. The term that industry uses is this, but make sure you have stewardship. You will otherwise see assets just going crazy. I think I have 2 minutes, so I don't really have the time to kind of give you the demo of Tableau, so we'll sort of schedule that. But in this next 2 minutes, I want to just give you an example of what happens. Can you see my screen? I need to share it.
Yeah, so while he's pulling up the screen, at the end of this session, like I mentioned before, we're going to have, you'll be prompted to answer a handful of survey questions. There's also a content box for you to provide feedback. If you're interested in seeing the Tableau demo, please just respond and we'll collect that information and work on scheduling something as a quick follow-up to this session.
So I'm just going into our, default testing environment, if you will, in some ways, to try and show you the admin interface of Tableau, right? And I'm going to show you data connections in this. This is something that's highly governed in IT. You don't have this kind of proliferation of ODBC connections and data connections. And what you will see here is that even with very limited use, we have managed to create data sources everywhere. It's like crazy. And it just keeps on proliferating because people, want to take charge of their own destiny in some ways. They want to create their own visualizations and share their own visualizations. And in the process, what ends up happening is there is no governance structure around it. So it's just to give you an example. But at the same time, the other examples here, all the users are completely always added in this environment, right? So you keep on adding users, but it's all the authorization is happening in Tableau. So this is Tableau. This is not necessarily what Spotfire does. Spotfire here is much better integrated with some of the infrastructure, IT infrastructure out there. But Tableau only integrates with Active Directory, for example. And even when it integrates with it, it doesn't bind to it, right? So I have to import users and then authorize them for content in Tableau. So you see this kind of, this kind of weak points. I wish I could open right now Tableau itself and show you how metadata management is done, and it's still extremely, extremely weak. So just keep in mind that there are, these are two different paradigms, and even within the data discovery paradigm, you're seeing a lot of evolution happening. And with that, I think I'm going to end this and hopefully be able to do this again with a product demo for you guys. I thank all of you. And
yes, so do we have any quick questions?
Hey, Brandy, it's Tim Reagan. Is this document going to be available on the Premier site?
Yes, the PDF version of the presentation, I posted it this afternoon to the COPBI folder within Premier Connect. If you have any issues accessing it, please just email me. And if anyone has any other questions about the webinar or the material, please feel free to send me an email. And like I said, please respond in the survey that will be prompted as soon as I end the meeting if you would like to see the demo, and we can go ahead and work on getting that scheduled. Does anyone have any other questions really quick? Okay. Well, thank you for attending the session, and we look forward to hearing back from you. And thanks so much, and have a great day.